Hey guys, it's Sandy from Sandy's Organized Chaos, and today I will be showing you how I made my hydro dipped and glittered red, white, and blue tumbler. So let's do this. Here I am showing you the tumbler that I used for this tutorial. I used a 40 ounce from Hog. Now this is a sublimatable tumbler, which means it comes already white, which I completely enjoy because that means I do not have to go out and I do not have to prep the tumbler. It's already pre-prepped for me. Now I will be using Southern Belle from Mr. Nola's for the main base of the tumbler. I love Mr. Nola's. I've been using Mr. Nola's for the past 2 years. I just love their company and I love what they're all about. Here I am just applying my epoxy because I will be applying the glitter with the epoxy method. That's my preferred choice, especially when using chunky glitter. It just makes the glitter lay flat and it gives it a nice smooth finish that you don't have to grind or sand down. My preferred epoxy that I like to use is Alumilite, the amazing clear cast line. I've never had any issues with it, and that's just what I've been using since the start of making tumblers. Now that my epoxy is applied to my tumbler, I'm going to lay my glitter down. Now I just start at the bottom and I kind of make my way to the top, and I just make sure that I hit the top and bottom really well along with everything in the middle. Just going to continue on with that until it's completely covered. Now that I am almost done with this, I'm going to put it on my turner and let it spin for at least 3 hours. And then I'm going to continue to let that sit as long as I feel it's needed. And then when I apply that second coat of epoxy, I load it up with clear coat. Make sure you put that clear coat on or that epoxy will repel away from the chunky glitter and it will cause fish eyes. Now this coat of epoxy, you want to make sure that you kind of put it on a little thick, just so that way there's no bumps, and so that way when you do your hydro dip, the paint just slips right over that epoxy. I'm going to let that sit on my turner for another 2 to 3 hours and then stand it up and let it dry for at least another 24 before I do my hydro dip. Here I am putting my lid to my tumbler in a plastic bag. Notice I also have a glove on my hand because you don't want that on your hands. I put the lid onto the tumbler, which will seal the tumbler so you don't get paint on the inside, which is really difficult to get off if you get on the inside. Now here I am spraying a gloss red and a gloss white. Make sure it is gloss so that way it moves across your tumbler a lot easier. If you use a matte finish, it doesn't flow as easy. I'm going to take hold of the tumbler nice and tight so that way it doesn't slip out of my hand, which I've had happen before. And I am going to twist the tumbler into the water and then just pull it right back out. And it is hydro dipped. Don't like to use spray paint. You could also use Marabou inks. I hear those are really nice to use as well. After this is fully dried, I like to take some acetone and I like to rub off some of the paint to expose that glitter underneath, almost kind of like a geode look. I like to wipe away with the flow of the pattern on the tumbler, so you notice I'm just kind of keeping within the red and just kind of rubbing here and there in the white to expose the glitter. I'm just going to keep going around the tumbler until I get the desired look that I'm after. And here is what it looks like after I rubbed all that white away. I really like how that turned out. Now it's ready for the stripe of blue that goes across it. I'm just going to kind of measure it to kind of eyeball it. I don't really do precise, but I try to at least get the middle. I'm going to lay some tape across. I just use a painter's tape, whatever you have on hand that you can block off where the glitter will go. Now that I have the bottom line figured out, I am going to take off the sides and I will get that lined up to do the swirl across the sides of the cup. Now here I am just going to take that piece of tape that's going to go up the side of my tumbler, and I'm going to line it up with the bottom, and I'm going to twist my tumbler as I lay the tape down. Now here I'm going to take the other side, and I'm going to make sure that I'm going in the same direction as the other tape, so that way it makes that swirl effect. You also want to make sure that the tape is firmly pressed down so that way none of the glue leaks under the tape. I'm going to take a painter's brush. You could use a foam brush, whatever you'd like to use. And I am using a blue by Recollections. It isn't Frost, it's a navy blue. I just reuse old containers. I am using Mod Podge paint, and I'm going to make sure that I load up that Mod Podge all the way around this tumbler. Now these 40 ounces are huge, and with my little T-Rex arms, it's a little difficult for me to handle, but I still got the job done. Now that I have my Mod Podge all loaded up on my tumbler, I'm going to take my navy blue and I'm going to sprinkle that all over the tumbler. Now it's probably going to take at least 2 coats to make sure that this is fully covered. Now that the glitter is applied, I'm going to remove the tape and I'm going to let that dry and get it ready for the second coat of glitter that I'm going to put on. I typically let it dry for at least an hour or 2, and then I make sure that I put a nice coat of clear coat over that so that way it doesn't get all over my brush when I try to brush on the next coat of glitter. I am applying the second coat of glitter. I make sure that is dry for at least another hour or 2, if not longer, and then I do another super thick coat of clear coat. Now here it is all dried up. I like to rub my hand across the glittered area just to make sure that everything is dry and there's no loose glitter. and then it is ready for another coat of epoxy. I'm gonna let that turn for another 3 hours, and then I will stand it up and let it dry for another 24 hours before I apply any vinyl decals. Cricut, they already have a star shaped for you. So I just use that and I make it a little bit more than an inch, because with these 40 ounce, it's pretty big. So I made mine a little over an inch, and I'm just gonna duplicate that and get that cut out. Now here's my tumbler all ready to have its vinyl applied. Here are my stars, and I'm gonna get ready to put those on. Now I just take my stars and I kind of line it up at the top, and I start over in the corner, just line it up with one side and the top, and then I just go from there. I just kind of eyeball it. Now that my stars are laid, I'm going to come over to this side of the tumbler because there was a little bit of a gap, and I'm going to lay some stars down, and then I'm going to cut along that seam of the blue just so it looks more tidy. Now is also the time that you would want to add any personalization to your tumbler, and then it is ready to have its final coats of epoxy applied. After all that hard work, this is your final product. For my next tutorial, I will be showing you guys how I make my sunset tumbler. Make sure you hit that like button and subscribe, and I will see you guys next time.